My name is Mohit Mazumdar, and I'm really excited today to meet you all. Uh, for all the people who are joining for the first time, I have done my PhD in computational biology and have been working with academia and industry for past several years to solve important research problems. So one of the reasons that I'm really excited is because I'm hoping that many of you would be able to work with us in the omics logic training, and we'll be able to do fantastic, amazing things together. So to tell you more about why this is so amazing and fantastic, not just because I feel so, but it is what is happening and going around in the world. So in my current role, I am working with faculty and student, but before that, I did my master's from Jamia Millia Islamia in bioinformatics, and then I completed my PhD from Jawaharlal Nehru University School of Life Sciences. So there I got a lot of opportunity, and during that time I was feeling like the practical exposure after coming to a lab from a degree program was a completely shocking thing for me, because there was a lot of difference when you do research and when you go through academics. So realizing that, I started working with industry. So I wanted to work and understand that what is going on with pharmaceutical industry, how the drug development process is done, how the biomedical data is being used. So all of those questions I had, so I wanted to find some answers that actually what goes on, and how are we dealing with so many things that are going on with medical problems and all of that. So that was my idea, and then I joined bioinformatics company to learn more about how data is being used by the pharmaceutical industry. And then after learning about that, I realized that there is a lot of difference, that way industry works. There's a lot of things that are missing in the system that anyone can benefit from if we know this well ahead, if we are well prepared. So that's the reason I'm here today, and I'm really keen and interested to explore the biological data and to do research in bioinformatics and provide this sort of knowledge that I've gained from all of my experience to the students and develop wonderful opportunities and projects. So, and this is only have been possible because hard work of a lot of people today. So on 27th October, we signed an historic MOU. I would say this is an historic MOU because the diverse number of people who were associated, experts, leaders who were associated with this agreement between the university and a company such as ours. So one of the reasons that we are doing this, as I told you, is to address the gaps. And this has been really well looked upon by the leaders that you have at your university. And I would not fail to mention that it is because of the constant interactions that we had. Today, we are coming up with a structured opportunity for all of you. And I would like to appreciate all of those people who were involved in this process to make it happen for all of you. So a big round of applause for all of those. So we are going to today talk about bioinformatics and data science. And I'm very happy to meet and talk about this innovation and cutting edge opportunity that will be available as you undergo. So let's learn about this. So this unique academic industrial partnership that is being proposed here will allow to bring us state of art technology. And that technology, the state of art technology, is being accompanied by content development by experts in the field of bioinformatics. And those experts are students, those experts are faculty, those experts are researchers who wanted to learn and perform high end and high quality experiments, high quality research, and high quality education. So as a result of this collaboration, both of our organization will help each other to bring this technology to students, bring this technology to the researcher, bring these resources to the researcher, and developing joint programs where we can develop research projects. And one of such program that we are going to discuss today is the Omics Logic Research Fellowship. So one of the reasons I keep on saying that, it's not just because I say things, but it is because something that we are observing. So the collaboration between industry and academia, that is what we have realized is key to catalyzing innovation and growth. Because there's a lot of potential in all of you, and all you need is the right kind of resources to advance in many things and get exposed and really be leaders in whatever you are going to do next. So industry partnership is instrumental in advancing research and in creation of skilled workforce. So that's one of the key agendas. So in this era of growing research, and why I'm saying research all the time, because we are getting a lot of data, and that data, that we are getting from all kind of resources. That could be wearable watches, that could be all this technology that we are going to talk about. But there is a lot of advancements when we talk about life sciences, biotechnology, and all of those fields. So in this era where life science researchers are bound to study this overwhelming data at a molecular level, because the answers to these difficult questions lies at a very detailed, when we get a very detailed information.
नहीं गिरा रही यार, मैं देख रही हूँ।
Sheetal,
Mohsa, I had to mute all the participants. Can you unmute yourself?
yeah, I was saying that Sheetal, please mute your microphone. I know it can get boring, but you can definitely listen to some of it. So, as I was telling you that this molecular data that we have to learn is important, because there you will find answers, and that's what we are going to talk about today as well. So, this molecular data is about genomics, gene expression, proteomics, metabolomics, and DNA sequencing data. That is a consequences of enormous generation of biological data, where life science and computers act as a balancing bridge in providing solutions to scientific questions. So in today's meeting, we have a few things that we are going to do, and let's clarify that. So we are going to learn about the advantages that you will have while going through the internship program, which is the Omics Logic Research Fellowship. So we will today first learn about some of the keywords that we're going to use throughout this training, which will be really important. And these keywords are actually those that are used in the field of bioinformatics, data science, and biomedical data science research. So the people who are posting about job opportunities, the companies that are talking about using this data, so that are also software companies, these are also pharmaceutical companies. So how they are using this for how these keywords are used by these companies, and why it is important to learn about some of these keywords, and then learn about some of this technology, and learn about some of this application. So you start with very basic. I'm talking about just keywords. So you just have to learn about keywords. That's the orientation part. So we have a structure that we are going to talk about today, how this program is structured, and how it will make sense for you to go through the structure, and why we should do this. So it all starts with the Omics Logic advantages that we are going to talk about today. So there are these technologies that I'm talking about, and there is this content that we discussed about. So there is a lot of content that is prepared around these technologies, and they are put together as online courses. So today we are going to look at some of the online courses that are interactive and hands-on courses, not like the courses that maybe many of you have taken through Coursera and edX and all of those. These are different in the way that these includes hands-on on big data. So from not only just learning, but also practicing it by doing the real experiment, because the data that you're getting are from real experiments, and the analysis that you're going to put on them are actually going to be real. So working on big data, real data, and then how it makes sense. Like, yeah, tools, anyone can learn about tools, like, right? You can download a tool, you can think about what you have found, you can download, you can read about it in the manual, and you can install it. Many people can do this, many people can run the program as well. But the important part is that how the program that you're installing, the package that you're using, how it is used for a certain aspect, like the application, how it is used for finding drug, or how it is used for finding some of the key information about an organism that can help us find a vaccine, something like that. So there is always a question that should guide all of these approaches, not just learning about the tool, but also why to learn about the tool. So this is where this is advantageous, that is the project based curriculum. So we have projects throughout that you have to go through and you'll be going through, and that's really exciting also. And then this entire process is guided by mentors. So I'm one of the mentor. We have with us today Dr. Harpreet and Dr. Raghavendran, who will be talking about their research and will be telling you about how the entire pieces of these different technologies can bind together, put together, and you can work on a real research project with an amazing outcome. That are the possibilities that we are going to discuss today. So moving on next, we have some of the topics that we kind of pointed out. But one of the things that are happening is that the technology and that advancement in technology is changing healthcare. So next generation technology is one of such technology, which is a modern second revolutionary technology that is spearheading this field, because it gives us a very detailed information about the genetic data, for example. So you're getting to see like really an array of letters, and that array of letters are like forming genes, are forming proteins, are forming like all those different secondary structure and tertiary structure that you have learned in central dogma, right? So you have learned about that. But when you see them on your screen, those alphabets, it would not make much sense to just visualize and think that what does this is going to do. So how do we learn about that stretch of sequence, or that ABCD, or not ABCD, ATGC, just like that? How do we do that? So we do that by comparing. So we have two people, we have two individuals, and then we are comparing. So bioinformatics, or learning about individuals, is also about comparing. And not just bioinformatics, but a lot of other things. That how do you predict things? You predict things by learning about a pattern. So you have to look at a pattern. So here machine learning, deep learning, all of those things comes in. So in this entire journey, the next generation sequencing technology is used in several areas of research, such as in biopharma, population genetics, agriculture, forensics, water testing, and then infectious disease research, and henceforth. So there's a lot of application that is there. So if you're interested in agriculture, if you're thinking about a problem in agriculture, if you're thinking about a problem in infection with viruses or other like malaria, all of those diseases, if you're thinking about the effect of mutations, you're thinking about cancer, all of those are included in now bioinformatics and data science. So this is not something that is just an additional thing for you, but it is a compulsory thing, because all of the data that are coming from all of these technologies that you are going to learn about, or you will be learning about, are going to be applied some point of time. You have to apply some data analytics. So that's the reason we are doing it. And that's the reason that we have seen a lot of application of this technology in industry and research. So bioinformatics, as I said, is not just only about genetics and toxicology, or radiobiology, but using all of those information and putting statistics, information technology, and connecting it with biology. So when you connect it with biology, then it makes sense. And that's where we are here, we are all trying to do research about. That's where we are trying to find solutions. So finding solution is very important. Like if you're a person who is more solution oriented, that okay, we have this situation, how do we overcome this situation? And that can be anytime, that can be in your life anywhere, and that could be in your professional life, where you're learning about these technologies and when you're trying to solve real life problems. So that's about that. But we should always appreciate the people who are behind this, the people who have done this, the reason that we are here today. So to do that, I mean, there is a history of genetic research, right? But genetic research at this molecular level is new. So it all started from Mendel's discovery in 1860. And then I told you about the central dogma of biology in 1950. And then we came through that, we came we get a long understanding of genetics. And then we got the structure of DNA. The structure of DNA helped us understand the pieces, putting the pieces, and then the sequencing technology evolved. The sequencing technology evolved through Sanger chain termination method that came in 1987. So after that, in 20 years, we have the first human genome project in 2003. And since then, there is a huge exponential growth in the way these genomes are being sequenced. And today, you will see that genome sequencing is very common, and it has been done for the COVID patients also. Many of you might know that. And even in India, now we have a lot of genome sequencing centers, and with this current government focusing on some of the aspects of healthcare technology, I think you will see a huge growth, because there are a lot of grants that came in. There's a lot of opportunities along with that also came in, because now we understand the importance of collecting this data, analyzing this data, because that is going to give us the solution. And this is kind of not for, like, we cannot rely that US has all this information, they are doing it, and they're going to find us the solution. Because when US is doing it, and when Africa is doing it, or for example Europe is doing it, they are doing it, those studies on their own population also. So the population level data is also important. So that's where I think we here are some of the new generation who should think about it, that how important this is to collect the right kind of data and get it sorted out. So we will talk about that in the next few slides. So these sort of data are some of the omics data. So many of you might know about these omics data, but phenomics, when we talk about phenomics, we talk about the phenotypic characteristics. So the phenotypic characteristics that you can see, that you can visualize. And then we have the different omics type data types, which tells you about the genetic information. So genomics tells you about the information that is in the DNA. So the ATGC and all the sequencing information along with that. Epigenomics tells you about some of the epigenetic or like non inheritable characteristics, where we see about methylation, on different type of acetylation, that sort of information that we get. And that is like in today's world, where we have evolved from that information about genomics and transcriptomics, we are now looking at epigenetic factors. We are looking at different RNAs and how they play a role in this different complex diseases. So learning all of this is a kind of could be difficult. Learning all of this could be challenging, because it requires you to have some of the basic information about some of these technologies and how that they are applied and what are the applications. So we see that there is a gap, and there's a reason to address this, because when there is a gap, there is an opportunity. So if there is a gap that needed to be filled, there we need a lot of people who knows about these gaps and can address these gaps, so that to bring this to bridge this disconnect between industry and academia, to bridge this disconnect between hospitals and data analysis systems, we have to learn about this, and we have to come up with solutions. And those solutions could be startups, those solutions could be research projects, and that's what we are going to talk about today. So today we learned about that how big data is applied in research, in hospitals, in pharma, and why it is important that there should be a connect between all of this. So in the omics logic training that we are going to showcase is really effective, because there's a lot of structure to it that you can learn from. So there's from one stage to another stage, there is proper training, and also proper guidance. So let's learn about that in much more detail. So today we are doing the orientation session. So in the orientation session, what we are expecting is that we are going to learn about introduction to bioinformatics, and that is what we have discussed so far, that bioinformatics is not just bioinformatics, it's also data science, it's also biology. So it is also biotechnology, it is also agriculture, and it is also all the other fields that are there generating that information and data. And that's one of the reason that is one of the reason that we should learn about these tools and how they fill all of these gaps that we discussed, right? So that is all about today's orientation. So about the structure, that how we move from orientation to introduction of these technologies and to the application of these technologies and to a real research project. And that's where I think all of the faculty who are involved and our team here who are involved are going to facilitate from you to go from one level to another. And how this is all connected, let's learn about that. So there are some technologies that we were discussing. So we have put together a list of technologies that you can learn from, that we will be showcasing you in a while. That involves like genomic technology, metagenomic technology, transcriptomic technology, and then applying bioinformatics in Python, bioinformatics in R, what is BioML, and how deep learning and machine learning and data science is being applied in that, how it can be done in R. So one of the things that I wanted to tell you all is that you don't have to learn about everything here. You have to find out that what interests you the most. So once we go through the orientation, the first part, the previous slide, is about this course, Introduction to Bioinformatics and Bytes and Molecules, that are there, that tells you about all of the application that we are discussing today. So you'll find all of this information already there. And then we will move to the next step, which is to get introduced to all of this technology. So getting you introduced, for example, if you're interested in genomics, so there is a course on genomics, and there is a lot of lessons on genomics where it starts from the basic and it goes to the application. So application will involve some of the data sets that you will be able to analyze there, and then you can complete those shorter assignments and quizzes that are there to finish this entire genomics technology, and then you learn about the application about genomics. So these are the different stages that are defined in this Omics Logic Fellowship Program. It starts from the very basic, where you're learning about the keywords, then you're learning about the different types of technologies, different types of application, Python and R, which are very important in the sense of bioinformatics data analysis or big data analysis in today's world. And then you're learning about biology as data science. So why biology as data science? Because of the volume of the data. And we are talking about not megabytes, but gigabytes, terabytes. And when you think about these megabytes, gigabytes, terabytes, you think about, you do comparison. So if you save a text file on your computer and you write a bunch of paragraphs in that, it will be 2, 3, 4 KBs. So these files have text information in them, and these files are in gigabytes or megabytes. So you cannot basically open them in your computer and do any sort of analysis. You can not even open them in Excel and run some analysis. So one of the objective of treating biology as data science is because data science is a tool. Data science has like a lot of tools in that science field, where we are going to utilize those tools to draw meaningful information from this enormous amount of information. And when you talk about data science and machine learning, a lot of people relate it with business, a lot of people relate it with other technologies where data science is used, social media and all of that, where data science is used like really it's well defined now, and it's really showing results. But how it is different in biology? It's really different in biology because the sheer volume of information that you can find from these different technologies. So the information that the biologists get, that all of you are going to see or going to analyze, is really makes you different from any other field, because this is really complex information and it is really heterogeneous in nature. So whatever you're going to learn will going to make you feel really good about it, because it is cutting edge because of the challenges it possesses. And it is also like connecting dots, so that it itself gives us like a great feeling when you can see that the dots are connected and you can see a broad picture of the research outcome. So to introduce you a little bit about these different areas application, so we first starts with an orientation. I told you we will start with an orientation, then we move to the introduction, and after the introduction is the application. Different stages, right? Orientation, introduction, and now application. So how do we apply these technologies to the the next things that are coming up, where the job opportunities are, where the higher study opportunities are, where the research opportunities are? So one of such thing is medicine, right? Because we are all from biotechnology or different bio-related background. So we have a defined area where we are learning about human health, and this is where medicines comes in. So the future of medicine is personalized and precise because of the challenges that we have faced. One drug for all is what we are used to, and then you see side effects, then you see efficacy problems, then you see there are so many things when it comes to access of even medicines. So all of this is going to change, because we have to do better with our healthcare, and all of us are realizing that. And there's a silver lining about this pandemic, is because this pandemic has made us realize that how important it is to take care of our health, right? So as a citizen, not as even a scientist, but as a citizen, just imagine a future 5 years or 10 years down the line, where you have to take this information to the clinician, you have to take this information to the doctor and ask him that okay, what am I suffering from, why I'm suffering from this, what are the drugs I should take. And just imagine if you know that this is the information that you're giving, and you're not in a position where it is all black box for you, that you're all dependent that about all of this information, but you know for real that okay, this is the information, then this is the maybe this is what the doctor is going to recommend me. So you know some of those things, that makes you take better decisions, right? That makes you take better decisions with your own health, with health of your family members and anyone who's suffering. So the future of medicine is precision medicine. And what we are seeing in precision medicine usually is the phenotypic data that I was just describing you. What is phenotypic data? It could be your, you go to a doctor, he will ask you, what is your age, right? He'll ask you different things about your different day-to-day regular things. That will be something that from where he can draw conclusions. So what he is seeing is at the tip of the iceberg, right? He's seeing that all the information that is phenotypically used, and it's been used for century. And that could be, that could be your temperature also, that could be your heart rate also, and that could be all of those things that can be calculated at the surface. And these are really cheap methods to get a diagnosis done. And that's the reason we are, relying on them. But now, when we are talking about these complex diseases, when we are seeing that it is not just, when we are talking about cancer and all those difficult diseases to treat, it's not just about that clinical data is enough for us to understand that what is happening. We have to go and dig deep and find out that what is actually going on. And that is where this omics data is coming in. And that is where this omics data is going to be useful for in the future. And now, as the time when we are learning about this technology and building that capacity, one of the reasons that we are doing it together in this collaboration is that we want to bring that capacity, so that we have people who know how to interpret this data and do this analysis and do really find out some of the issues and key problems that we have. So to tell you like about precision medicine is an emerging approach to treat diseases, and it takes into account not only genes but also the environment and the life cycle of that person, right? And then how do we go from different stages? How do a pharma company, how do a startup starts and go to and contribute in these different stages? So when we find out about some sort of a disease, and when we find out that okay, this is maybe the cause, and we can do some sort of experiments, then to understand about the effect, we first check it on a cell line sort of experiments that can be done in a petri dish, and then we can see the effect, that how this therapy is working. And then what we do is that we implant that into a mouse model, and then we see that how that tumor is growing and how the therapy is what we get from this after the transplant, when we give the mouse that same therapy, how it is reacting to that. And then there is the third step where you're doing clinical trials, when you're doing testing on humans, when there are different groups that being tested upon. So recently you have heard about the 25,000 people cohort approval of the vaccine Covaxin published in Lancet. So that is a third kind of a clinical trial. Now, when these companies and research labs are doing clinical trials and all of these experiments are going on, data is generated. So data is generated at a cell line level. Data is generated at a patient-derived xenograft model, mouse models, or different animal models. Data is generated at a human level. So all this data is getting deposited in public repositories. And what we do is that we analyze some of this data, omics data, about different diseases, and find out what are the different things that are not being, that are not known yet. And there is so much information, and that's why there is so much opportunity. So some of the opportunities that lies in cancer research is also like finding out beforehand. So finding an early detection or prognosis. So cancer is also a disease of aging. So it is very important that we find out as we age, the kind of biomarkers that could warn us, that could like really save us from this deadly disease. So here bioinformatics also plays an important role, because when you see stage specific data, then you can find out that okay, this is how it is changing. So you can predict the next step, and if you can predict the next step, you can just tell that person that okay, this is where you start taking precautions, and you start taking medication, so that you don't go to the next step. So this is where it is playing really a great role. So some of the applications that are happening right now is that we are finding solutions for different type of cancers. Many organizations around the world are working on it. Many research institutes are working. Many students are working. So it is a collaborative effort. It does not just happen from one person. So we do want group of people to join some of these projects that we are going to come up and work with during this entire internship process that is going to start. And then we would want to do this in a collaborative way, where we all are participating and learning about and finding solutions to some of the key challenges that are there. So some of the key challenges that are there, you can see some of the examples. So this brain cancer, which is more like likely to cause death, right? So scientists have used artificial intelligence here, enhanced tools, to successfully propose a new combination of drugs for use against an incurable childhood brain cancer. So it's like it leads to non-survival. So this approach, which is designed to expand researchers' capability using AI, allows scientists to explore ideas on how to target children with diffused intrinsic pontine glycoma. So DIPG is what they call it, and who this caused by a mutation in the gene called ACVR1. So the scientists, what they did is that they found out that using a drug called evenoromulus alongside a drug called vanditanib, So I'll write it down for you guys later. So everolimus and vendatinib could enhance one of the other drugs capability, and it can cross the blood-brain barrier in order to treat the cancer. It was a breakthrough, and then it's a combination of diseases. So the proposed combination has proven effective when treated in mouse, where first it was validated in mouse, and then it was tested in a small cohort of children. So that's how it is happening, and I hope that now you understand some of these things, that how it works. It is helpful. Similarly, not just omics data, but electronic healthcare data. So researchers at MIT and Beth Israel, they came up with combining machine learning and human computer interface. So they this created this EHR, for the EHR, better EHR record. Because what happens is that when doctors are seeing patients, and in India they are seeing so many patients at like 90 100 patients, and then documenting it all is just, it's just insane. You don't get time for anything. So what the students at MIT, they helped up with is that many of the documentation is requires, like, there's a lot of repetition in there. Not like in repetition because the people are coming from like similar kind of diseases. So there's a same thing that is being used for same diseases. So there's a lot of information that could be automated. So they automated using AI, and that actually identifies, helps with a smart EHR that automatically displays the customized patient-specific medical record when clinicians need them. So MedNotes is that what they call it. So it has a application in obviously clinics and for doctors. So obviously there's a lot of application, as you see, with all sort of data that is being generated and that is used and to treat patients, to get the clinical information and get it structured also for any sort of analysis. So we talked about application of bioinformatics in precision oncology or precision medicine, and similarly for when we do bioinformatics for infectious diseases, when we talked about malaria, COVID, fungi, and all of those small bacterias, viruses, parasites, we are working on different aspects that bioinformatics can help solve. So that involves exploring genomic diversity of these pathogens in epidemics. It is also to study about the viral zoonotic spillover. So how the spillover happens, how can you do the evolutionary analysis, and how you can explore different type of viral and bacterial disease development. Then it goes into understanding the relationships between the genomes, the strains, and their haplotypes. I guess you know what is haplotype. So when there are like several copies, and then to find about genomic sequences and to find about the consequences, that what is happening, right? The functional consequences, how the host is responding to the pathogen, and how the immunity is being affected. So there's a lot of research that is going on with omics data in infectious disease research, and many of you would be interested maybe to do infectious disease research. So this is about we have put together examples from West African Ebola outbreak that happened in 2014 to 2016. From there, we have examples from immune response biomarkers. And then one of the other very important field is in today's world is microbiome, to learn about the microbiome and using the technology called metagenomics. So metagenomics is a way to study microorganisms in their natural environment, which was such a challenge before. If it could, people from wet lab could relate to this. And then dissecting these community, like, because there's a lot of different types of bacteria and viruses that are present, microorganisms that are present in a community. So you're learning about that entire community structure. You're exploring the species richness and investigating the functional role of this microbial community that plays really big role in human health and disease, because we live with them all of in us. We have more bacteria in us than the number of cells that we have. Just imagine that. So it's very important to learn about this. So in this sort of specialization, first you do the orientation. I'll go back. Orientation, introduction, and then you do the specialization. So in this specialization, when you are going deep into the specialization, if you're choosing metagenomics to do your research, you will learn about 16R RNA data. You will learn to apply some of the pipelines that we have put together in the TBioInfo platform, which Dr. Harpreet will be showing in you in some time. So here I'm talking about integration of data to give you the complete picture. Here we are talking about system biology, where we are talking about omics data, where we are talking about metagenomics data, and when we are talking about clinical data. So all of this data is from one person. So one person, you're getting all this information, and then you're understanding that person's entire the makeup of how we are built and what is going on. And then there is like different time points also. So data taken 1 month ago, data taken 1 week ago, data taken in specific condition. So just imagine how much data this could be, and when the human genome is itself is like around 2 to 3 GB, I guess. So it's challenging. So that's why we are going to learn about the TBioInfo platform that had made life easier for all of us, and specifically, I think for students, because being a student, I don't think I would have gotten this opportunity to actually work on real experiments and do some hands-on on real data, high throughput data in a group or in such a large setting. So that's where this training is going to be helpful. And then when you learn about the data, next step is to learn and apply this in using chemoinformatics. So drug discovery. So drug discovery is a process. Drug discovery is a project, because a project that is which starts from a motivation. Because when you're thinking about drug discovery, you're thinking about an underlying hypothesis that is that if a drug is there for a disease or not, or if there is efficacy, a drug that is efficient or not. If a drug is not efficient, then yes, there's an opportunity for you to develop a new drug, because it's not working. You know that this drug is not working. If there's no drug, obviously you would want to find a drug, right? So drug discovery is now it from hit to lead, and before that, before the hit discovery, and before that the target discovery. So all of these stages now bioinformatics is playing a key role throughout, and how also data science tools, because you are talking about big data. And then there are some innovations that has shocked, or not even, I should not say shocked, but that has really helped the world. That is about the DeepMinds initiative that came in the 14 CRISPR prediction competition. Is that they used AI to predict structures. Now, structure prediction was one of the key challenges. That is like protein folding, the problem of protein folding. So that was solved, and using the DeepMind, Google DeepMind project, and we learned about that. We are going to learn about that also in our training. And not only that, but again, like you can also do this. You can go to find out about this tool, and you can install, maybe try to run it. But when you're doing it in an aspect of finding a solution, it is way more exciting. Is that what it is? So not just that, it is also now we are learning about to predict complex structures, not just single structures. So there's a lot of application that is coming up in today's world, and that's why it's so much exciting, because this is the time, and that is applicable to data science and AI in clinical trials also. So all of this data kind of builds up to find solution. Another last example that I'm going to give you, and maybe conclude this, is a preclinical candidate that is being identified by a company called Benevolent AI. So it's a novel target for ulcerative colitis, and they have just filed an IND. So the scientists deployed Benevolent AI's target ID tools, and machine learning models to identify and experimentally validate a novel biological target with no prior reference in the published literature, or there's no patent referring to linking to this one. So they used a new technology which used all of those bioinformatics, best in class molecular design technology using graph theory and deep learning. So it is actually working, and it is actually going to work for a lot of solutions. And we just need right kind of people to analyze this data, and we just need right kind of infrastructure to support such initiatives. So this study, according to Benevolent AI, the latest milestone is that they are going to look into the different multifactorial diseases and do validation. So they did find it and then validate it and did wet lab part also. So all of this is from a AI based company. So these are some of the applications. It grows to also space omics. So recently we started this space omics, the world's first omics based space omics data analysis program. And we are really excited to get a lot of students who are already doing research in space omics. So there's an opportunity to work on astronauts' health challenges and all the data that NASA is generating and publishing, and also other institutes are doing so using microgravity experiments and other experiments that mimics. And also, I would like to mention that MIT University in Mumbai has a branch in astrobiology. So it's an upcoming field and it's an important field. So out of all of this information, I think what is important is to understand that how do we get started. So when I started, I had a lot of challenges because there was not such structure that actually could simplify things and make it accessible for everyone. So literally, like people who have a background, people who don't have a background, people who do not know anything can start and actually come up and develop something really beautiful. So that has only been possible because of this omics logic platforms and these collaborations that are that are part of very extensive discussions that led to this sort of opportunity for students. So there will be opportunities for you to work on genomic medicine, precision in oncology, infectious diseases, applied data science, machine learning, and AI. Going for automation, metagenomics, precision agriculture, space biology, cheminformatics, computational biology, drug discovery, multiomics integration, and at certain point of time, we are going to also collaborate with Tauber Bioinformatics Research Center, which is at the University of Haifa, to do multi-omics integration and mathematical modeling once the projects are shaping in. So this entire process starts from a very basic, but it goes to a really high level. And some of the students will get an opportunity to work on those high-level projects that are envisioned by all the, all these visionaries that you can see on the screen here, who discussed and integrated faculty-driven research into this proposal. So how that is going to help you is that when you have learned about the technology, when you're getting expertised, the faculty from Pine Biotech and faculty from your own institutes are going to tell you about some of the research projects that are ongoing that you can be a part of, and utilizing these tools and come up with maybe a good outcome like a poster or a presentation or a publication. So that is something that I wanted to talk about in my part of the presentation. And what we are envisioning for the students is to learn about these 21st century research problems and contribute with a group of community here, a group of mentors here, and a lot of resources that is going to help you in every stage of your, of your training. And to do this, we have talked about different stages. That is to get ready through training and then find an impactful research topic with the help of faculty, with the help of interns that we have here, and then present your analysis for feedback, expert reviews. And we also have collaborators all over the world who are some of the best in the field that they work on, which will give this entire project a really different shape, a different feel. So that is what I wanted to talk to you about.